this is my computer science NEA testing video, and I am going to be testing my tower defense game. And my three types of test are typical, erroneous, and boundary, where the typical is what you might usually put in, what should produce an expected result regardless of whether it is wrong or not. Erroneous is designed to intentionally crash the program, and boundary data is testing the limits of the program to ensure that the program can deal with extreme values. So my first test is testing if the title screen appears and carries on to the game if any key is pressed. So for this, a title screen should show when I start my game, and that essentially should prompt me to press any key to start the game, and that should start the main game. So let's try that. As you can see, the title screen has shown, and I've got my prompt here: press any key to start the game. So I'm going to press spacebar, for example, and that starts the game for us. And I will press another key just to show the proof of concept that any key works. And as you can see, I pressed the A key, and that still generated our game. So that is a pass. So the next test is testing whether a file can be loaded by entering the name of an existing file. So the file I've got here, test.txt, I'm going to try and enter this name, and that should allow me to enter the name of the path, and the path should generate according to that file. So let's load it. Test.txt, enter it into this text box, and when I select this, we should get a message saying that the file has been successfully loaded. So let's try that. And as you can see here, the path from test.txt was loaded, and there is our path, and you can see that that is in fact the same as what is in our file here in the bin debug folder. So that is perfect. That is a pass. And the next test is testing that only valid file names can be inputted. So I'll attempt to enter a file name that does not exist. As you can see in my bin debug folder, I'll just enter a series of random characters, and that should be not allowed. It should tell us that we are not able to open that file. So if I go ahead and just put a random series of characters in and select a path, the file is not found, as we can see, and we can do another one, just P's, and the file is not found, and we can still load our regular file, as you can see. So there is a pass. So the next test is testing our exception handling for file reading. So I will attempt to open a file that has erroneous data, and from that it should give me a message box saying that there is an error reading the file, and prompt me again to enter a different file. So this is my erroneous file.txt. As you can see, as opposed to the data in test.txt, it is just a line saying erroneous data, and that should give us an error when reading the file. So let me try that. If I type in erroneous data, this file, sorry, .txt, and as you can see, we've got a message box saying that there is an error reading the file, and the input string was not in the correct format. So it will prompt me again to enter a different file. Let me try that again. As you can see, we get the same message, and if I try and still load my file normally, it does in fact still work. So that is a pass. So my next test is testing the random path generation. So when I'm prompted on the title screen, I will attempt to randomly generate a path, and this should be truly random. It should be different every time. So we can go ahead and try that out. So here's my prompt, continue with a randomly generated path. I'll click that, and there you go, there's our randomly generated path. And just to prove the randomness, I'll do it a couple more times. And as you can see, each time a different path was generated, so that is going to be a pass. Now on my next test is testing the dragging and dropping with a typical input. So as you should usually do, I should be able to click on the user interface once I've started a game, selected whether I want to have a randomly generated or saved path. I should be able to click on my UI here to drag one of these towers onto the map and place it down. So let's try that. I'm clicking one of these towers. As you can see, it appears in the top left corner. Once I put my mouse onto the map, you can see it follows my cursor, and it's in a snap grid, so I can drag and drop my tower anywhere on the map here. So I'll just do it here, and my tower is now placed, and I can access my upgrade menu from there, and I will start the game to show that. And as you can see, the tower is working normally, whereas if I was just to take a tower here, it would not do anything once the game is started. And I can place it here again. There's another tower placed down, so that is going to be a pass. So my next test is testing the tower spawning if I have insufficient money. So I'm going to attempt to place a tower in the same way as I've just done, but instead place it, try and place it when I don't have enough money to purchase the tower. So you can see the prices for each of the towers underneath their icons here. So 400, 750 and 1250. So for example, if I don't have enough money, I've currently got 750. If I try and place this tower, it costs 1250. The icon will show red, it will be highlighted with red, and when I try and click it, it tells me I don't have enough money. If I try and do the same with the other towers, for example, I now only have 350. If I try and place this tower, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money for that one either. So that is the error message that I get. So that is going to be a pass. So now I'm going to test the boundaries of my dragging and dropping, and it should only let me place my tower on areas of the map that are valid. So it should not let me place it on the path or on the user interface. So I will try that now. So here's my tower. I'm dragging it across, and as you can see, areas of the path are highlighted red, indicating that I cannot place them. And when I try and place them by right-clicking on the canvas, I get a message saying that I can't place my tower there. I try and place it on the nest, it does not work either. And if I try and place it on the UI, it doesn't work either. I can't place it anywhere there, and my cursor will not move until I move it across here. And if I want to place it in a normal place, it does still work. And as you can see, my tower functions as normal. So that is going to be a pass. So now I'm going to test that the dragging and dropping can be cancelled using the cancel button when the user is trying to drag and drop the tower onto the map. So let's try that. As you can see, when I click to drag and drop my tower, a red X button shows, and from this we should be able to cancel our placement of our tower. So if I decide I don't want to place this tower anymore, I click this, and as you can see, we can no longer place a tower. No money has been deducted, and we can still place a tower if we would like to there. So that is going to be a pass. So now I'm going to test that enemies spawn and follow the randomly generated path each round when a round is started. So we'll try that for a couple of rounds just to prove the concept, and they should strictly follow the path that has been randomly generated. Let's see that. And as you can see, the enemies do follow the random path. We're going to place a tower here just to show what it looks like in later rounds as well. And if I was to go to round 2 here, you can see the other types of enemies also follow the path very strictly at a faster rate. So that is going to be a pass. So next I'm going to test the invalid input of clicking the button to start a round multiple times. So usually when I click the button to start a round, it should allow me to start a round normally. So if I click it once here, it starts round 1. But if I try and click it multiple times, it doesn't work, it doesn't do anything. And I will show that throughout the round. So you can keep clicking here, you can right click, you can do anything, and it still does not allow us to start the round. We'll just wait for round 2 here to show that we can start round 2 by clicking it again. So now it's round 2, I'll click it again once, and throughout round 2 I'm going to click it again, and you can see that nothing is happening there. So that is going to be a pass. So next I'm going to test that towers can be upgraded when they are left clicked. It should bring up an upgrade menu, which is fairly user friendly and allows the user to upgrade each tower to be used in future rounds. So let's try that. As you can see, we've got our tower here. If we left click on anywhere else, it doesn't actually do anything. But if we left click on the tower itself, it brings up our upgrade menu, and you can see you can upgrade the first attribute, the second attribute, or sell the tower there. So I'm going to try and upgrade the longer range, for example, and you can see that the range has increased there. So that is going to be a pass. So my next test is trying to upgrade towers when I don't have enough money to do so. Similar to the test when you're trying to place the towers, I should get a similar message saying that I don't have enough money to upgrade the tower. So let's try that. I'm going to place my tower onto the map and then attempt to upgrade it once, twice, and you can see now that I have no money left. When I try to upgrade, my arrows are highlighted, so I will click it repeatedly, try and upgrade it, you can see the counter does not increment and I get an invalid message saying that I don't have enough money there. So that is going to be a pass. So my next test is testing whether upgrades can go past the maximum level, and this is done by clicking the button repeatedly until I get to maximum level. So I'm going to do that by initially giving myself the maximum amount of money that I can. So here I have given myself 50,000 units of money, and that should be enough to fully upgrade one of our towers. So if I start the game, as you can see I start with £50,000, and I can place my tower here and try and upgrade to the maximum level. As you can see, I'm now at the maximum level. When I try and upgrade any further, it doesn't let me do that. You can see my money does not change and the range does not increase any further. And that is the same with the other attribute, for example. It does not let me upgrade any further. You can see. So that is going to be a pass. So my next test is testing that birds target worms that are in range and then damage them. So this is a typical test to test whether the birds can target the worms as they're following the random path, as they should do usually. So I'm going to first switch my money back to 750 and then start my game. So I'm going to place my bird here, and when the round starts it should be able to target the worms. Yep, and as you can see it targets worms that are in range. If I increase my range then it can actually begin to target worms that are outside of that. Just demonstrate that by upgrading the faster firing mechanic. And as you can see it is targeting worms that are in range of its radius. Upgrade that even more, you'll be able to see that that is prevalent throughout all the different types of worms. So they can target any worm in range. And that does work for all types of towers. So if I was to take a sniper tower, for example, that has infinite range and it can reach anywhere in the map to reach its targets. So as you can see, it is going anywhere. And that also applies for the rocket bird here. If I set up these towers and then place down my rocket bird, as you can see, it is targeting those towers that are in range. And so that is going to be a pass. So the next test is testing that the game over screen appears when the player runs out of lives. So let's go ahead and test that. When I run out of lives and the game finishes, I should get a screen saying game over. I should either get an option to play again or quit the game. So here I'm going to start round one. I'm just going to let the worms reach the end of the path so that I can lose all my lives. You can see the lives counter decrements each time a worm finishes the path. And there we go, that's the game over screen, and as you can see we have the option to either start a game or exit the game. So that is going to be a pass. So the next test is testing that the victory screen appears when the player beats round 10. So for this I'm just going to play through the game and that is going to be a victory screen should appear once I have finished the game. So let me go ahead and do that. And as you can see now, after completing the game, we get our victory screen. And we also get the option to play again or quit. So that is going to be a pass. So now we're going to test that the user can save a path to a text file at the end of a game. So let's go ahead and try and do that. So we're just going to let the game end here by letting the worms reach the end of the path. And as you can see, we get the option to either exit the game or start a new game. And I'm just going to pick this one at random. And please enter the name of the file is the prompt that we're given. And I'm just going to try and save this one as, say, test2. And we're going to name the file. And as you can see, it's been successfully saved in the project folder. And we can actually access that file. So if it's already inputted, so just put it again, test2.txt, and we select that file to be generated, the file is successfully loaded, and you can see that's the same one as we had before. So that is going to be a pass. So now we're going to do an erroneous check to check whether the user can only enter a valid file name inputs. So that's only letters and numbers are the only things that I'm allowed, and that's done using a regular expression. So let's test that. So again, we're just going to let the game run on. And when I'm trying to start a new game, I'm going to try and name this file with some symbols which will not be allowed, such as the pound sign, for example. I'm going to try and name the file that, and the file must only include letters and numbers as the message box that we get. So then I'm going to try and do some different symbols there. And the file must only include letters and numbers. I'll try a combination. So we have some letters, some numbers, and some symbols. See if that works. And again, we get the same message. So that is going to be a pass. So the next test is going to be testing that the user can't enter a file name that already exists. And this should give us a message saying, an error message saying that file already exists if we try and save a file. So as you can see, we've already got a file that exists called test.txt. So if I enter the name test, it should give us an error message saying that the file already exists. So let's go ahead and try that. We're just going to let the game run on until the end. And then, as you can see, when we try and name our file test, which already exists, we get prompted to say that the file already exists, and we can enter it again. We'll try a different file that already exists. So, for example, the file that we saved earlier, test2. We can see that that file already exists, and that will not work. So, that is going to be a pass. So now we're going to test that the user can't save a file with an empty file name, and that should give us an appropriate error message if we try and do that. So let's go ahead and try that. Once again, I'm just going to let the program run until the end. game has ended. We're going to just click a named file, and we're not going to enter anything and just see what we get as a result. And there we go, we get an error message saying that the file must include letters and numbers, and we have to enter something. There you go. So that is going to be a pass. So now we are going to test whether a new game can be started at the end of a game. So we are going to click the button to start a new game at the end of a game, and then we are going to see whether we can in fact start a new game after selecting whether or not we want to save the file path. So let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to let the game run until the end. Here we go, so we now have the option to either start a new game or exit the game. So we're going to try and start a new game here, and if I select no, if I don't want to save the file, we can see that it takes us back to the original screen, prompting us whether we want to save or select a new file. So we just say we continue with the randomly generated path, and as you can see we can play the game as usual and everything is reset. So that is going to be a pass. So now finally we're going to test whether the game can be exited at the end of a game. So after we select whether or not to save a file, it should just exit us from the game and close down the program. So let's try that. Once again, just let the program run until the end. And now we're going to select the exit game option, and I'm just going to say no. And as you can see, the program has closed and we have quit the game. So that's going to be a pass.